So let's start with today's webinar. Good afternoon again. A very warm welcome to everyone in today's webinar, Under the Hood, How Technical Due Diligence Drives Smarter EV Investments. I am CA Sunana Agarwal, leading business development for EV Systems Engineering practice, and I'm delighted to host this session on behalf of pManifold Business Solutions. Before we dive in, a quick word about pManifold, the strategic consulting and advisory company behind today's session. pManifold works at the intersection of clean energy, transport, e-mobility, hydrogen, and carbon markets, helping governments, investors, and enterprise accelerate climate-aligned growth. Through policy advocacy, technical due diligence, engineering support, and capacity building, pManifold enables smarter decisions and scalable solutions for the net zero future. As someone deeply engaged in the clean mobility and EV ecosystem, I have seen firsthand how technical due diligence is no longer a back end formality, it's a strategic necessity. Whether you are an investor, startup founder, or an industry advisor, understanding the technical backbone of EV solutions is key to unlocking the scalable, sustainable, and bankable outcomes. We are thrilled to have a powerhouse panel with us today, and before we dive into the discussion, I would like to invite Chirayu Kashedikar, Senior Analyst at pManifold, to set the context for today's session. Chirayu brings expertise in manufacturing supply chain along the EV domain and will walk us through why technical due diligence is becoming critical filter in the capital deployment journey. Over to you, Chirayu.
Thanks, Unana, for your warm welcome. Now, let's begin our discussion further and set the context for the webinar. Moving forward, so first of all, what is do technical diligence? Technical due diligence is the assessment of a company carried out just before the investment and partnership to get on the product basis of product portfolios, technology, capital investments, and all the things. So for further understanding of the technical due diligence, how investors get into a risk, possibly due to a weak technical due diligence, understand it through two case studies. First is a Bangalore-based battery manufacturer startup raised a fund of 60 million USD, but has landed by laying off his employees and mounting debts. The possible reasons behind this technical due diligence can be technical benchmarking was not done deeply and apparently was not carried out. The product cost which they launched were 4 times that the cost of the alternate technology. The supply chain viability was also not that adequately verified. The second case study is of a officially official discovered a EV manufacturing firm had no manufacturing facility, which affected a urban mobility service provider. In this case study, the probable reasons for the weak technical due diligence was that the investor prioritized the fleet expansion and ESG's optics over the internal financial control. No, when the procurement system was not deeply very audited or verified, or even the vehicle cycle cost modeling was also not that verified. On the other hand, the case studies which had successfully led to investment of the in the e-mobility system due to technical due diligence are as follows. Indian e-scooter manufacturer has announced the has announced its completion of fundraising of 120 plus million US dollars. And the second one is of Delhi-based electric commercial vehicle, which has raised more than 600 crores rupees in the Series D funding. Now coming to the framework of the technical due diligence. First is we assess the companies under the following head: product assessments. In the product assessment, we have product capabilities. In the product capabilities, the product specifications are studied, such as what is the battery pack size, what are the motor sizing, what is the range, and all the things. In the second is the regulatory requirements, in which the minimum the firm has to has to do the requirements is as, for example, AI 038 and other safety requirements. In the product performance, the specifications versus actual performance is compared. Means if the company claims of 100 kilometers of range, in actual it is going only 80. So that product performance is assessed. The second is product robustness. In this product robustness, the product has to perform its operation in varying conditions. And in the competitive benchmarking, the competitive benchmarking is done to understand how our product stands and where our product stands in the market. As we have seen in the first case study that the technical in the competitive benchmarking was not done properly, so they had to stop their operations and they have to lay off their employees. The second bucket is the process capabilities and capacity assessment. In that, the first head is of engineering and processes. In this, the engineering and development, design and development section of the vehicle of the company are assessed. Means how the designing process are taking place, how the development and proof of concepts are getting verified and validated. The second is integration and validation. In that, the system, the components and subsystem levels are generally validated through the uh, virtual validation or procure or in actual validations are carried out. Second is FMEA and risk mitigations. In that, the FMEAs are carried out and risk are mitigated in the design stages only to prevent the further losses. Second is manufacturing and sourcing. In the manufacturing section, the overall capacity and scalability of a company is assessed through whether they can fulfill their order book within the given time period or not. So the investor risk can be minimized. Second is sourcing strategy. Sourcing strategy means how the company sources their components which are to be fitted in the vehicle or a product. So is the supply chain viability is studied, and storage and inventory. The in the storage and inventory portion, the how much a company can store its product and inventory for the so that the line can work smoothly. The third part is the quality and after sales services. In the quality and after sales, the overall quality, the quality management system of the system is verified, and in after sales, the performance and the warranty costs and how the issues are resolved on road or on market that are assessed. The third bucket is of strategic fit. In the strategic fit, IP and technological modes are assessed. Means they are the strong points on which the company can hold their market position in the market. Second is product market fit. Product market fit means how the product can meet the market demand and customer requirements that holds the value and that is assessed. Then third is a technological roadmap. In the technological roadmap, it is a assessment of alignment between timelines and milestones which company or a business model has to achieve in the time. And the fourth is investor strategy fit. In the investor strategy fit, the investors goal and the company's business model are assessed. Means what are the difference between these two and how a company can proceed and how investor can invest to get his goals. The overall SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats analysis is assessed through the overall assessment and submitted to the investor. So the investor can go through as is condition of the company and can set his goals about investment in the company. Now coming to the stakeholders involved in the technical due diligences. So first of all, the first is the investor who seeks the technical due diligence to minimize his risk in the in the investment of the company. Second is the target company, the company which is seeking partnership or investment and is subjected to technical due diligence process. Third is the consulting expert who conducts the technical due diligence under investor or a partner company who is parenting with the company and set and prepares the company for its target partnerships. For today's elaborated understanding, we have Mr. Anirudh Mandana, who will present the investor's perspective, and he is from NIFF. So the second is Mr. Arth Patel from Tarex Chargers, and he will be presenting the perspective of a target company. We have Mr. Vivek Sahasrabuddhe, who is the domain expert, and he will be presenting the perspective of a technical domain expert. And we have Mr. Vikrant Vaidya, who will be He will be the moderator for the session. Now I invite Mr. Vikrant Vaidya to proceed with the further sessions.
Sure. Uh, Thank you, Chirayu. And once again, warm welcome to everyone. Glad to be part of this panel, having worked with all three of you, and glad to reconnect with you with this opportunity. Uh, Basically, we will have a round of panel discussion. I have a set of questions around the context that has been set by Chirayu, and then we will also have some Q&A from the audience as well. So, audience, I would request you as we go along, even now, if you have uh, had any questions in your mind while going through Chirayu's deck, and now going forward in the discussion as well. Please put them onto the Q&A panel. There is a Q&A icon on your Zoom panel. So please use that. Put your questions as and when they come, because you may forget it. And secondly, we may go first come, first serve basis. And time permitting, we may have to skip the ones which come later. Yeah. So with that, let me again welcome all of you, particularly all three panel members, Anirudh, Arth, and Vivek. Uh, let me start. Uh, Let me start with Anirudh, uh, going as per how Chirayu has shown in terms of the stakeholders. Uh, so it's always a question in the minds of people who are looking to invest or who are looking to get into automobile space, e-mobility space. What are the typical investment risks? What should they look out for, and how that some of that, I'm not saying all the investment risks would be mitigated, but some or many of those, which of those would be mitigated through technical due diligence? So if you can elaborate on that, we
Sure.
can get started. Yeah.
Thanks, Vikrant. Great to be on this panel. Look, the way we think about technical risks when looking at, especially in the electric mobility segment, there are three specific areas where we have focused on. And to our mind and in our experience, these are the areas which are the most critical for any electric mobility business. The first is the product technology claims. We have, as a lot of you would have already read, we've seen instances of fires, safety hazards happening on a lot of different vehicles. We've seen that the battery range is not what is usually promised. The number of charging cycles that the battery, over its lifetime is able to deliver is not what has been claimed. Uh, many of these uh, Many of these claims have ultimately led to a big mistrust between the final consumers and the OEMs. So I think that is one area which is very critical. Understanding whether the claims are what are able to deliver what has been claimed by the OEM. The second part related to this is just the pure testing. Many of these batteries, vehicles, etc., are not well tested in Indian conditions. And when we say Indian conditions, we're talking about very harsh and not so great roads. We're talking about weather patterns which are very different from the north to the south and coastal areas, etc. Uh, in summer, some of these conditions and the weather temperatures are as high as 42 to 45 degrees Celsius, which has safety implications on the battery itself. So all of this I would just put under one bucket. The second is the manufacturing capability and the supply chain resilience. Now we all know that batteries and cells directly or indirectly come from China. So there is a very heavy dependence on imports. I think what specifically we have tried to focus on in our past diligences is looking at how resilient the supply chain is, and in the absence of imports, what are the dependencies that we have on other sources. The third and finally another critical area is the compliance. Now within the sector, a lot of subsidies are being given out by the governments. And to get those subsidies and to avail those, it's critical that the compliance is met with, not just from the subsidies point of view, but also from a safety point of view. And given that this is a regulated sector, I think compliance is a third bucket where we tend to focus on. I think, in short, the TTD, technical diligence, makes sure that we don't invest in flashy prototypes, but we're investing in backing businesses that are able to scale and are able to perform well on the field in different geographic areas. So for us, it really is about cutting down the risk on the investments.
Very, very well put, Anirudh. So, just to point out, some of these things are often new to people who are working in other sectors. Now, particularly coming to EVs, we see people who have worked on batteries, who have worked on motors, on power converters. They have become relevant to automobiles because those technologies are now part of electric vehicle. But the robustness requirements in many of the other applications where they might have worked historically, what Anirudh talked about, should be able to operate under different conditions, weather patterns, different ways of usage, different road conditions, and so on. On top of it, the use case of a automobile is such that it's not a fixed steady state, one speed, one load, a bit of predictable pattern usage that we see in many of other appliances. So I think it is very important to understand what anyone who is trying to get into the industry, be it as an investor, be it as an entrepreneur, what are the nuances of this application, which we call as automotive application. So with that, I would turn to Earth, where he represents or he has the experience of being a target company being evaluated. And I must say, one of the easiest target companies to work with. They were well prepared. So, what I would like to understand from you, Earth, is what additional things that you see bring value to you, what benefits, additional benefits, other than, of course, investment or investors coming on board. Other than that, what do you see as benefits of going through this process of technical due diligence?
Thank you, Vikrant, for having me and for the opportunity to present my views. Yes, so a few years back, we went under extensive technical due diligence while we were getting evaluated for investments by a larger group, to be very precise, the Hinduja group. So, apart from the investment, obviously, yes, finance is something that everyone wants, and it certainly helps in, I mean, all aspects of the company's growth. But I strongly feel that there are three or four other areas also which, while going through technical due diligence, help not just a startup, I would say even a larger company or a medium-sized company would also be certainly benefited from having that done. First, being an improvement in your processes. Today, even if you have like the best of the teams of the world, when a third person, an external person who is not part of your team, who's not part of your day-to-day operations, when they come to visit your facility, be it for your plant, be it for your R&D, or anything else, when they come with an intention to audit it. So there's a human tendency to find that mistake in the process, and somehow while doing that, it comes and it shows the lacks in your structure. Even if it's the best of the system in the world, it still has some or the other flaws or the gaps which the technical due diligence comes out with. So that certainly helps you improve your company processes, so that in the long run, you don't find that after 1 year of working on a product, you find that, oops, this is wrong. We could have tweaked it 1 year back. So that thing comes up early in the game. Secondly, because the person or the team rather doing the technical due diligence are all also technically, very experts in their own domain, they, while in discussions with them, you tend to realize and understand more about your product from an outside perspective. Again, if you have a good team, you are still the day-to-day people discussing the same thing. If you have, let's say, a 3-year roadmap, every day you'll discuss that 3-year roadmap with the team, and their minds work around the same thought. But when an external person comes, they guide you, they can bring ideas which are different, let's say out of the box, that may or may not help, but in many cases it helps, improving your product in the long run, redefining your portfolio or roadmap. Thirdly, for startups primarily, we were a startup 2 years back, 3 years back, and technical due diligence certainly helps you connect with a lot of vendors or partners, because again, the people coming for due diligence are all experts, so they come with a network of their own. It may be for testing, it may be for some or the other, technical expertise required, which you may not have in-house. So those sort of things come up in those discussions, and that helps. And fourth, obviously, a credibility. Today, if you go to a customer and if your startup or your company has been technically evaluated and then invested versus a company who just got invested without any technical due diligence, certainly that holds up in the market. People see you as a, someone who is actually reliable, someone who is actually doing good rather than uh, any other Tom, Dick, or Harry. So that these are the four, I would say, areas that certainly helps apart from the investment.
Great. Thanks, Harth. And I think there is a lot of exchange of information, data that happens. As you said, it's done in a way as an audit. It is very close to what OEMs or tier ones do as supplier audits for themselves. So yeah, but there is also now when an OEM does that to a supplier, there is an intent of business. There is also a trust that yes, they are our clients, and they will also treat the confidentiality with utmost care, because jointly it is distinguishing the product.
Yeah.
But when a external agency, a third party comes in, maybe on behalf of the investor, but still a third party comes in and evaluates it. So I'll come to Vivek now, who has extensive experience in doing these, both from supplier audit perspective, having worked with closely with the Tata Business Excellence model, both evolving as well as working in its framework. I would like to know from you, Vivek, how are these challenges in terms of data exchange, confidentiality concerns, uh, and how do we deal with it? Because oftentimes that may be something that is stopping either or both parties involving a third party to do these kind of studies.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great question and very fundamental to technical due diligence. Let me explain a little bit about why TDD is important. So first and foremost, I have come across startups who are sourcing their products from China, putting Make in India tag and selling it in the market. So I have seen another set of startups, they even don't sell the Chinese drawing. So as a technical expert, you question their authenticity. Are they traders or engineers? So if they are traders, my job is to tell the investors, don't bet your money on this horse. So, so coming to confidentiality and transparency, the first and foremost is the NDA document. It is not a legal document which only a lawyer can understand. It is more about the trust between the investor, a technical expert, and the company that is seeking funding. So unless the NDA is signed between these three parties, the process should not start, cannot start, because a lot is at stake. The startup, for example, they invested their intellectual capital in coming out with products and seeking money. They don't want to divulge their IP to the world through either the TDD expert or through the investor. So signing that document is the first thing that is important. Then the second aspect, till you establish trust between the among the three parties, is controlled access that takes place. So how it is done is uh, the data or information that is available in public domain is shared over email or maybe MS Team calls, depending on your modus operandi. But I come across startups who have said that we will show you everything when you do a site visit. So you need to be sort of classifying your understanding of the business and its technical capability in terms of what is available in public domain and then carry out the site visit. In site visit, the startup that is seeking money or seeking funding will show you what you have asked for. Whereas when it comes to sharing with investors, they will just share the test report. But me as a TDD expert, I want to know more. Do you people understand everything that is required to be done to the product as a part of regulation or not? And then at another company which I evaluated, they told us that do not bring your laptop. Come to our war room and ask for anything, we will give you. Nothing leaves this company. And that is very important. This happens usually in the initial interactions, initial visit. But once you establish trust, the NDA document is sent on the back burner because trust is very important. And let me cite another example. One of the TDD that I am carrying out right now, the startup has asked, are you guys sharing this information with my competition? So we had to give confidence that we are here for business. Our brand is also important. So whatever you share with us stays with us. But this cannot happen over email unless you have multiple interactions with all the parties involved. And then comes my role. I'm not interested in the financials of the company. My job is to evaluate, are they using the right IT tools to carry out, let's say, CFD analysis, virtual twins? Are they building the real prototype? And is it scalable? A classic case is Faraday USA. Some flashy prototypes they built, got funding, but scalability was an issue. And this is where we as TDD experts become active catalysts. The catalyst is to, let's say, marry the investor and the startup. Active piece is, if it were my money, will I invest it into this company? So that is how confidentiality and transparency are balanced. It's all about trust and it should be visible through your actions, not through words. Hope I answered your question, Vikrant.
Yes, absolutely, Vivek. And essentially, the crux of the matter is all. First of all, both the parties stand to gain out of this exercise. Both the company which is seeking funding as well as the investor who is looking to invest. So both also actually improve their confidence on each other through this exercise. So I think that's probably the spirit which should be, it is the spirit with which these things should be taken. Coming to the trust and the confidence, so of course each of these could be facilitated in terms of individual evaluations, individual deals. But Anirudh, I would like to come to you to understand how does this overall improve the confidence of particularly the investors, the funders, the financiers into investing overall into e-mobility technologies. There are, I mean, as is the case with any new technology or any new application of a technology, there are tall claims. We heard you talk about it in your opening answer as well, and but it's also a matter that we have come to expect. So how do we go about how does this exercise would benefit in a more bigger picture sense, right? In terms of uh, 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 you know uh,
Sure.
having confidence on this technology, it will work, or
Sure.
this is worth investing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think first we need to understand that this is a sector which is at early stages of adoption. Now, of course, there are different sub-segments. There are two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and then large and commercial vehicles. They have their own journeys in terms of adoption, and that'll continue. Some segments are ahead in term, compared to the others. But there is a certain adoption curve that will continue to happen that we've seen play out so far. Uh, to answer your question in terms of how does, a technical diligence help create a positive investment climate, right? I think the most important factor here is that the early consumers are placing their trust and their hard-earned money by purchasing these vehicles ultimately, right? For some, it's a personal decision. For them, for others, it's a commercial decision, and their lives are on the line for this. I think uh, if that trust, for whatever reason, uh, doesn't live up to the expectations and the claims, then you will see that the adoption either reduces or will not grow as fast as expected. So I think transparency in the system is extremely important. Whatever claims are being said by the OEMs needs to be delivered. That is the second piece. Uh, so I think overall, the ecosystem has to ensure that there is a culture of trust. It helps the investors, keep backing players with more capital. Obviously, capital helps bring in scale, which reduces the cost curve of the complete ecosystem. It helps that there is availability, there is distribution. So from the investor's point of view, this is a big positive. From the consumer and the adoption point of view, this is a positive. And finally, I think the other piece in this puzzle is talent, right? The industry to keep innovating has to ensure that there is a steady flow of new talent that is available, who's coming in and contributing to the sector and the overall and contributing to its overall growth trajectory. I think for that to happen, for younger engineers to ensure that they are excited about electric mobility, the sector needs to grow. All of this is only possible if there is a certain level of trust in the ecosystem. So I think it's extremely important that the diligences, are done in a way which helps investors underwrite the appropriate risk. Now, I'm not, I'm obviously a totally understanding of the fact that many of these products are at early stages and there is a certain maturity that will happen. The warranty expenses will go down over a period of time. But one needs to, as an investor, understand where are we in that cycle, where are we on that maturity curve, and what to expect over the next coming few years, and ensure that the appropriate level of risk is being underwritten. The worst thing that can happen to any of these three stakeholders is that we do not fully comprehend the risks that are being that is there in the system, and either as consumers, investors, or even a young engineer who's entering the sector, you don't fully comprehend it, and then you enter with your eyes shut, right? That is not good for anyone. That is, I think, how I would answer your question.
Really well put, Anirudh. Basically, yes, there is a space, and there is, I mean, there is a tradition of making those claims. But I'll come to earth with this. But essentially, how much of it you also are utilizing in your. So, for example, one of our experiences with a battery manufacturer. So of course, there are claims of battery life, and everyone knows, like fuel economy, we say, okay, if the sticker fuel economy says 20 kmpl, I will expect 15, 16. So everything is taken with some grain of salt. But that that also, is it going into your business models? For example, we are working with a battery manufacturer making a certain cycle life claim, and they were also verifying it, of course. But then, are they using that number, which may be optimistic, to put it mildly, into their business model, right? And if that doesn't materialize, is their business model at risk? So
Mm,
what I
yeah.
would like to understand from Earth is, how uh, how does this validation or evaluation help in terms of recalibrating your assumptions, technical assumptions, that are very critical to the business model? Because we often say, right, you give n as the target to the marketing, but have your break even at n by 2, or something like that. So how does it help, or how did it help you in your experience, if at all?
So, uh, yeah, definitely, technical due diligence, apart from obviously, yes, the four things I said, helps in redefining your products, not just from a cost perspective, but even from a technical perspective. Because especially as a startup, sometimes you start feeling that your products are the best because you are seeing them day in day out again and again, 24/7. To be very honest, at early stages of startup, as a founder, 24/7 is something you think about, and then you start getting into that feeling that this is the best thing out there in the market. Nothing can beat this. But when someone
Mhm.
comes and shows you that, these are the lacks here, so that allows you to redefine your product into an even better version of it. Eventually, yes, obviously, when you launch it, it reduces the field failures. It reduces your go-to market time and all of the later parts of it. But primarily, it, it helps improve your product as a whole. Secondly, even from a cost perspective, startups may not have a lot of experience when it comes to costing, or I would say pricing the correct product. A lot of times, and there have been many cases across different categories, not just e-mobility, where a lot of companies have the right product which are very good, but they are too expensive for the market, so they fail. So when you go through that technical due diligence, you realize that lot of things which are you're trying to show as USP, or let's say you're trying to show as a differentiator, may not be required for the domain, which are eventually adding up to the cost. And even when a due diligence happen from experienced people who know how prototype is different from a mass produced item, how the design is optimized for manufacturing rather than prototyping. So that also allows you to reduce your overall cost, and then eventually, price your products better to ensure that you sustain in the market.
Great, great, great. And in terms of that, there is an element, as Chirayu showed, that there is element of competitive benchmarking. There is an element of product market fit as well. We oftentimes hear, you may have designed the best product, but you should also be able to sell it. And does the attributes that you consider best, as you rightly pointed out, are they reflecting in what is expected from the users or the buyers of that product? And yeah, it's in a generic sense also, it's quite true. But more so when we talk about e-mobility products, when the entire technology is also in kind of a learning curve, as Anirudh mentioned. It's going up the steeper part of the maturity curve, and at the same time, looking at the product, people have concerns around technology, or their inhibitions about the technology itself, and then with that at the back of their mind, evaluating specific products or making the buy decision. So I think, coming to you, Vivek, How does ensuring or evaluating the engineering processes? So we talked about product a lot, but how do processes come in here? When we have evaluated product, many would think that should suffice. The product meets the expectations, it is meeting the cost targets, it is generating revenue, expected to generate revenue, and so on. But where do the engineering processes evaluation come in, and how does that help? What significance does it have on evaluating the risks of failure of a product?
Okay, so there are three, four areas that we look for. So let me start with what Anirudh has mentioned about talent. Because if you are a company with some deep tech or a different tech, so to speak, then that is feasible or possible depending on the quality of talent that you want, right? And since the industry is in the evolution phase, it is not possible to have top talent, right? You may not have people who have been working in the EV industry for 10 years because EVs in India itself are maybe 5 to 6 years old. So that is where you need to sort of calibrate your, let's say, questioning the talent that is available in the startup. Uh, I had been to another industry which is into power storage, and since it involves high voltage batteries, they hired people from automotive industry. So you need to discount this fact. I mean, ideally, everyone wants people from IITs, Harvard, and Stanford, but that does not exist in EV domain. So certain sort of factoring you need to do while evaluating the talent. And do the people have experience at least in the IC industry, internal combustion engine? Let it be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, tractor, doesn't matter. At least they know how the product moves and what is involved for the product to be moving. So that is on the talent front. Second piece comes to the type of product. The questions that I would ask to a motor manufacturer vis-a-vis to a battery manufacturer will be different set of questions. For example, to the motor manufacturer, I will ask the efficiency map because the range is a resultant of bad motor design. If your motor is consuming more power, then obviously you're compromising on your energy efficiency. So that is what we need to check. Then what are the design processes? What kind of end of line testing is being carried out? What quality of magnets you are using? And what is the duty cycle that is sort of deployed on the dynamometer? Basis with you get an output from your each and every motor that is rolled out from the assembly line as a confirmation that what the customer wants, this motor is capable of delivering. So these are the things we look for. Suppose it is a battery. Then my first question is about AIS 156. I mean, it is mandatory. So all these battery manufacturers, for example, will meet that. But I go into more details. There are 21 tests specified at cell level, module level, pack level. There are sensors. So are these things engineered or they are picked up off the shelf? If they are picked up off the shelf, then are they integrated? This is what I would look for. I will go into BMS algorithm logic because battery, as I always say, is a bomb. And BMS is taking care of the BOM 24/7/365. So if your BMS logic is faulty, it's a matter of time, it will show up in the field. So we go into that depth and understand various scenarios that have been built into the BMS logic. Okay. So this is as far as components are concerned. I had been to one two-wheeler manufacturer looking at the target sales volume. It is not expected that this company will be having automated assembly line. So manual assembly line is okay. You can produce maybe 20,000 or 30,000 two-wheelers per annum, which is perfectly okay. But what I look for is, are they using torque guns? Because if the tightening of, let's say, bolts, etc., is not proper, there will be field complaints. So I will not penalize that two-wheeler company for not having automated assembly line. But I look for what kind of processes they are having. Have they trained their manpower, the people who are actually assembling the product? Then comes the manufacturing setup. What kind of process checks, foolproofing, pokayoke as we call it, they are having in the process? How they are inspecting incoming quality? Are they having any test reports? This is what I would look for.
Very well put and very well elaborated, because it is a very detailed cascading process,
Yeah.
which looks at each and every part from the perspective of where could be the gaps, where could be the risk, because it's not a question of designing the product, but the manufacturing part. There can be, so in automotive industry we have conformity of production. We also have incentives on doing something locally. So the design may originally be using multiple imported parts, and now successively are localizing. So how are you taking care of the validation? How are you making sure that uh, whatever changes you are making, they are validated, they are verified? So as not just the product design, but also the processes should be backing the product well, so that it is not not a question of just a good design, but also a good implementation, execution of that design. Coming
And
to
one more
yeah,
point.
sure.
One is about testing and validation. Since it is a startup, it is not expected to have full-fledged lab. Some tests would be carried
Right.
out in-house,
Right.
some would be outsourced, which is perfect. The first point is, are they meeting all the regulatory requirements? Second, for example, EMI, AMC. This has to be met because otherwise it will impact other ECUs in the car, for example, if
Right.
it is not addressed.
Right.
Then what kind of tests are carried out? The tests that are outsourced, are they carried out at NABL accredited labs? Because that gives confidence that, let's say there are 21 tests to be carried out. This company is doing 7 in-house, remaining 14 are outsourced, which is fine. Then I will ask for what is your plan to enhance your testing and validation setup going forward in future? And also comes, what is your technology roadmap? Because you cannot survive in the market only with one product. You need to come out with enhancements, new gens, every 2 to 3 years. So this is also what we look for as a part of risk assessment. At the end of it, I'm telling somebody, put your $1 million. So this is very important for me, for my conscience.
Absolutely. So, coming to you again, Anirudh, there is a larger vision that we have as a nation, and we have been constantly working towards it since past few decades, in fact, not just few years. Although that may have reflected in parallel policies being coming into e-mobility space, but overall, we always had, local content requirement within our taxation framework. We always had technology indigenization, at the minimum manufacturing it under license in India, but also getting that technology for us to work further on and enhance it. It has been in defense sector. It has also been in automotive sector, where we have had history of joint ventures as well, right? Right from the days of license Raj. Uh, what my question to you is, now coming to e-mobility, and we have PLI schemes, we have there also, to even qualify for demand side subsidies, you have local content requirement. Now, how does this come in as a risk? Because oftentimes there are startups who they venture into this industry being traders, as Vivek had said. They are assemblers in a way, kitters. They take kits, assemble and sell, and then slowly move into a space where they are developing their own products and localizing them. But uh, what kind of risk are we carrying with this? I won't say pressure, but with this motivation to bring that technology into India and manufacturing it in India, localizing as much as possible. How do you see that pan up, and if there are any mitigations of that risk that come to your mind,
Uh,
if you.
Sure, Vikrant. Look, obviously the government is giving out big subsidies, whether it's the FAME subsidies, and there are, newer forms of those. Then at the state level as well, there are different capex subsidies that are being given out. There are, as you mentioned, tax and GST related subsidies as well. Plus to top that up, the government also has much lower GST on the sector compared to the ICE engine vehicles, right? So the government is fully supportive. Obviously, there is a certain ask that you localize a big part, if not all, a big part of the manufacturing that is being done, which I think is a fair ask, given that the wider agenda is to ensure that more jobs are created in India and the value capture happens within our country rather than letting some other countries benefit from the adoption of EVs in India, right? I think to that extent there is a fair bit of risk as investors that we see, because there have been instances where companies have not complied with whatever was the policy and the regulation, and have gone out and claimed all the subsidies and the incentives that were being offered, right? Which obviously, no one would want to leave that on the table. So companies have gone ahead and claimed that, and eventually, in a lot of cases, given that stricter audits happen before the money or after the money is given out, there have been instances where we've seen these instances where government has rolled back some of the incentives that were given out because the companies were not in compliance. As investors, that is big risk because these subsidies are significant. Uh, while we understand this, I think this is a much more manageable risk if you do your diligence right. And this is a big part of, the whole technical diligence, the way we structure and we see the technical diligence in any of our electric mobility assets. And this was my initial points as well, right? Compliance is a big part of it, given that it will have meaningful impact on the final returns that we make. So ensuring that the companies are in compliance with all the government policies, whether it's in with respect to domestic local value add, or it could be on certain other aspects as well. This will ensure that a good diligence on this will ensure that this risk is completely mitigated. I think the second part of of this is the businesses also need to, to be profitable. Many of these businesses at the unit level have to get those subsidies to be profitable. So for the sustainability of the underlying business itself, now whether an investor is funding it or not, just from purely a commercial angle, it's a good decision. It's a good practice that businesses comply with these policies and ensure that they're getting the subsidies in the right way, so that in future there are no stumbling blocks. To answer your question in short, while these are very real risks, I think this is completely manageable by the entrepreneurs and also by investors.
Sure. Great, great, great. So it actually leads into kind of going to earth in terms of how do you properly achieve compliance to these policies. So there is regulatory compliance and there is policy compliance, right? Regulatory compliance, everyone looks at, oh, that is like minimum passing mark. Without that, you cannot sell your product. But these are kind of more hit and miss kind of compliances, where you can still sell if you are not having the right local content, but you will be you may actually fail in being cost competitive with others who have localized a fair amount. There is also a role of the ecosystem to play there, right? Because some of the things you can't hope to manufacture in country just for your volume sake, right? Each entity may not actually provide enough volume. So how do you address this, and how does you briefly talked about Earth about these activities or these diligences, bringing in a network of local stakeholders, local suppliers, even sometimes. So, how do you approach this in terms of making most of what the policies and SOPs are provided, which are typically in the initial phase of a technology adoption? So, over to you, Arth.
Thank you. So yeah, I think the main thing here is to have an intent, that a company or a startup has the intent that their product has to be compliant to the regulatory requirements, the norms, or the intent to get the policy to help the startup scale. If the intent is to just get the passing marks and be done with it, then also it's fine. I mean, there are companies in India who do that. And if the intent is to get the subsidy and not use it for the purpose it is intended for, that is also happening in the nation. But major thing is that, yes, that the intent has to be very clear from the startups end, that you get the subsidy for the purpose it is intended for, and you ensure that the regulatory compliances of your products are met. Because in early stage, we may tend to make stopgap arrangements, like getting you know a different product certified, selling something else, or changing the components after the product has been certified, to minimize the cost, risk, and a lot of things. But in the long run, that is never a helpful thing, because the day any incident, see, if nothing happens, then no one ever finds out. That's how it works. But the day something happens, then it puts your entire years of hard work. Let's say even if you grow to a 10,000 crore company, and if something goes wrong, then it puts your years of efforts of investing into a product, it puts the risk of your investors' credibility, the credibility of the people who've done the due diligence, your personal credibility, and everything at stake. So the day something goes wrong, you get into big trouble if you're not compliant to the regulatory norms. There are also cases, for example, with us also, right? Localization is a big push from the government of India, and certainly, yes, we are working towards it. But certain portion of our clients are okay with us not being compliant to those things. For example, let's just take the example of so we make primarily chargers. So the guns of the chargers. So today, we have the largest share in India for commercial vehicle charging, where the product is being constantly used, or I would rather say abused, for 20 hours a day. So there is a stringent requirement from our clients that, you have to use certain components from certain companies only. They may be, let's say, German, Japanese made, because of the fact that those products have been proven more reliable than the ones available otherwise. So there, if your client is okay, then yes, you may choose to, not get complied by them. But that again is case to case basis. But in a general sense, it is more advisable to ensure that you make a product which is good. Each of your product has to be certifiable. It cannot happen that, your prototypes get certified and your manufacturing units don't. At any point of time, if you do periodic testing also, that we have recently started doing, that out of the regular production lot, once in a year, you randomly take a sample out and get it tested at a, third party lab. That also has to be compliant to the required norms. That's how you truly know that, you are doing it right. If that answers the question.
Yeah, Vikrant, if I can just add here, right? I think
Yeah.
this compliance thing also has a governance angle to it, right? Uh, and for us, that is a gating item. It potentially is a deal breaker. In all cases, we would want our portfolio companies and any company that we are evaluating uh, to not to be well governed, and claiming government incentives just because they are available without meeting those compliances is a gray area. So that is a big red flag for us.
Right. As Earth said, the intent
Yeah,
is
intent has to
reflected
be,
in that,
yes,
right?
it's
Yeah.
very clear on what you want to achieve.
Right. So one final question before we come to the audience questions, Vivek. In terms of as Arp mentioned, in the production, the prototypes get certified for a sale, and there is actually one question even on from the audience. So the homologation, the type approval certification happens on one or few pieces, and then there is manufacturing. And of course, we know in automotive industry there is conformity of production, but it has been evolved around IC engines, right? Because emissions are affected by everything, including maybe phase of the moon and all. So, but now coming to EVs, a lot of people are relaxed, right? We do not have to worry about emissions, tailpipe emissions, somebody doing a PEMS, portable emission measurement, and saying that, oh, this doesn't meet or this is too high, exceeding onboard limits, and still no warning lights, and all those complications are gone. But how does conformity of production still is it still relevant for electric vehicles, and what role does it play? How does it matter in terms of risks of the product?
Yeah, I mean, while everything related to emissions has gone away, new regulations have come in. For example, you have AIS 138 Part 1 for AC charging, Part 2 for DC charging, then AIS 038 for battery packs of non 2 and 3 wheelers, and AIS 156 for two-wheeler battery packs. So, lot many equivalent regulations that are relevant to the EV propulsion system are already in place, and there is a conformity of production applicable even to components such as battery packs. Because I mean, as I have been saying, battery is a bomb that drives all the bad news across the globe. So COP matters a lot, and there is a adequate regulatory check in place, which earlier wasn't there. Even OEMs were selling battery packs without sensors, right? And then AIS 156 came in formulated, and believe me, AIS 156 is a reference regulation in the African continent as well, because Africa doesn't have any regulation. So India becomes benchmark. So long and short is there are adequate regulations in place, and more will evolve, because uh, unlike ICE industry, which is more than a century old, EV industry is just 15 years old, and the knowledge is in pocket. Auto OEMs do not know about motors. Motor manufacturers, battery manufacturers do not know about vehicle dynamics. Integration collectively they come out with. So we are in a transition phase. But if I look at the year 2025 vis-a-vis what it was in 2025, 2020, a lot of maturity has happened across the value chain, both at the OEM, at the suppliers, as well as at the dealership. Because ultimately, your dealership is the front end. So everybody is evolving and sharing knowledge, at least with their respective value chains. That is what I'm noticing.
Yes, absolutely. So, if I may stay with you, Vivek, there is
Yeah.
a question in terms of how to get these certifications and how does it play into especially smaller vehicles. So the specific question is about a small car, but I think the spirit of it is in terms of a low cost product having to go through homologation and these checks and balances. How does it? I mean, does it make economic sense, or does it put a lot of strain on the business model? How do we deal with it? So I think.
Okay,
Okay, I
I
mean, I
will
will.
oversimplify my answer. If you want to see your product on the road, you must get homologation certificate. I mean, as simple as that. There
Right.
is a laid out procedure. The interested parties or upcoming startups, they can look at ARA website, ICAT website, and detailed information is shared about homologation requirements at vehicle level, at component level, powertrain level, so on and so forth. So unless that much money is invested, you can't see your product on the street.
Road. Right.
This is part one. Now we have maybe a billion IC engine vehicles already on the street. So there are people who want to convert these into electrified variants. So there is a homologation certificate even for the kit. That procedure is also laid out,
Hmm.
and how much it will cost. This information is also available in the public domain. There are many shops. I don't want to call them roadside garages because they are well equipped, well conversant with the automobile. So they have developed their own kits to convert two-wheelers, maybe Honda Activa into electrified Honda Activa, Maruti Gypsy into electrified Gypsy. So these people also are required to meet homologation requirements.
Right. And it's a very interesting point that not just looking at new products, but we have gone on and possibly one of a rare example of even retrofit kit can be homologated, right?
Yeah.
If you are converting a vehicle, the donor vehicle needs some fitness test, but also you could essentially homologate a retrofitment kit. So I think those provisions exist.
Yeah.
You need to understand, and of course, as Vivek said before that, that it has to be incorporated into the business model. That this is something you cannot do away with because essentially, uh, you know, uh, the homologation or the type approval and certification is the passing mark below which nobody can take a risk with your product. I mean, not just buying it, but being around it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In fact, if I can add some instances from the market, initially the new OEMs, they were selling vehicles with chargers that were not necessarily meeting the requirements.
Right.
Quite a few cases have happened wherein vehicles got burned because while charging. After that, Government of
Long charges.
India introduced that mode 1 charger are banned. You have to have mode 2, reverse
Right.
current protection,
Minimum. Yeah.
surge current protection, so on and so forth.
Right.
So what was missing was immediately brought in by the government. Okay. So your, let's say, funding requirement has to account for meeting the regulation. That is the starting point.
Right.
And if you want to be the best in business, beat the regulation.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Go much beyond that. Yeah. 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 Anirudh, there is one question in terms of angel funding companies, going up to criteria is going up to say 5 crores of investment. What is the criteria, for that? Because oftentimes those may not actually go through a full-fledged technical due diligence. So what
Yeah,
criteria would they apply, and how does that thing work?
sure. So 5 crores is you're talking about checks written by individuals or very small family offices, not by institutions necessarily. Uh, in my view, though we don't focus on that, we are large institutional investors. We come in at a much later stage, when the product is mature, the company is on a path to profitability or is already profitable. But for much smaller checks, the primary mode of evaluation is the team and what they're trying to build. Because I would imagine at such a small check, the product wouldn't even be built to my
Correct.
mind. So
Hmm.
it's primarily what a bet on the team itself.
Great, great.
What I would also add here is that,
Yeah, yeah,
question says which angel funding company. So a few years back, I remember I did this exercise. So one of the things that definitely helps is, trying to find out what type of investments a particular company is doing. If it aligns with your business, or see, some companies may only invest into service-based companies, some may only invest into SaaS, some are only fintech-based investors or FMCG type. If it aligns, if the fund houses investment align into what you are trying to achieve, then you have a higher chances of convincing them to invest into your startup or a company rather than going behind someone who does completely something else.
right. Yeah. It can be a kind of a data point in history as well, in that sense. One final question before we move to the closing remarks is probably I will address it to Vivek, but then you can also come in. What certifications are required for sustainability and regulatory compliance in terms of sustainability, in terms of because that's again something which is coming up on the horizon, which is currently more in voluntary phase, but you would see more and more mandates coming in from that sense, which is particularly for the manufacturing units in terms of sustainability and net zero. So maybe Earth, if you want to go first, and then I can move to Vivek and Anirudh to get their
From a
thoughts.
manufacturing point of view, for sure, there are, I think, ISO standards there for ensuring how you dispose your waste that are counted as part of certification, sustainability. I think global guidelines for ESG and all, there are also different scopes that are, I think, majorly for larger companies, but from a startup point of view, certainly working in those lines, like how you can maybe electrify or employ transportation or promote solar or renewable more in your manufacturing facility. One thing that definitely we have worked upon is IGBC certification, which is Indian Green Building Council. So they basically certify your manufacturing facility based on how much there are different criteria: silver, gold, platinum, based on how much you are able to recycle, how well you are using renewables and all of that. So those can be looked at.
Sure. Anirudh, Vivek, if you want to add onto that, anything?
Yeah. Basically, what I can say is the three R should be part of your design process: reuse, repurpose, recycle. When are you designing a product that can be completely recycled, which is very much important. And this has to happen at the design stage, not when the product is already in the field, because then there are many constraints. There are certain irreversible assemblies that are taking place, which prevent sort of recycling completely. So one of the KPIs that is used is how many parts are carryover in your new generation. So when I say part carryover, it means part number carryover. Because carrying over tire, fine, tire is a tire. But are you using the same tire which you have used in the previous generation? So part number is the criteria. So number of parts shared across the platform. That is essential because it saves a lot in your manufacturing as well. So for example, Volkswagen ID family. On that platform, you have a hatchback, you have a notchback, a van, and a SUV, and a performance SUV. 5 products, same platform, scalable. And as your range and performance requirement go up, keep on adding the battery module. This is very important, right?
Right. Great. So I think there are a few more questions, but I think we'll take them offline for the benefit of time. We are exactly 10 minutes to go. So with that, I will hand over to Sunaina for closing remarks and yeah, and announce formal closure. From me personally, thank you to all the panelists as well as the audience who stuck with us. Yeah. Over to you, Sunaina.
Thank you, Vikrant.
Yes, thank you, Vikrant sir. So it was quite an informative session, and I hope the audience, as well as every one of us, was able to take the maximum benefit from our experts. I thank you all for joining us today for this webinar. It has been really insightful session, and we are truly grateful to our panelists, Mr. Anirudh Mandhana, Mr. Arth Patel, and Mr. Vivek Sahasrabudhe for sharing their expertise and perspectives, and even answering the questions to our audience. A special thanks to Mr. Vikrant Vaidya sir for steering the conversation with clarity and depth. Today's webinar highlighted how technical due diligence drives better EV investments to build a deeper capabilities across green strategy and finance. The audience can also explore our PG executive program in net zero strategy and sustainability leadership, which is co-developed with EV Acad and IIM Kashipur. To dig deep into this program, I've already shared a link in the chat, and the audience can just click on the link and get the details. We hope the frameworks and examples and reflections which were shared today will help you approach the EV investments with greater confidence and technical rigor. Let's continue building a cleaner, smarter mobility future grounded in strategy, backed by engineering, and powered by collaborations. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.